My girlfriend announced. I'm freezing my eggs. I'm not sure you're father material. I said, that's smart planning. Then I scheduled a vasectomy consultation. The doctor's office that accidentally called while she was there. I'm 36, and I've been with Claire for about 4 years. We met through friends at a board game night. She beat everyone at Codenames, then spent the next hour explaining to me how she's too strategic for casual dating. I laughed. She didn't. That should have been the first clue. Claire's a financial analyst, sharp, disciplined, hyper-organized. Her life runs on spreadsheets, color-coded calendars, and a running 5-year plan that she updates every January for accountability. I'm a software engineer, logical too, but less rigid about structure. I plan long-term in broad strokes, not bullet points. For the first couple of years, things were good. Stable. We got along because we respected each other's independence. We didn't fight much, which I took as a good sign. She called it efficient communication. But over time, efficient started to sound like emotionally sterile. Every conversation about the future turned into a performance review. The cracks started showing when she got promoted. Overnight, her vocabulary shifted: asset allocation, risk mitigation, emotional diversification. I became part of her portfolio, something to manage, not love. I still remember the exact moment the tone changed. It was a Tuesday night. I'd just made dinner, something simple, pasta and roasted vegetables, and she came home late, dropped her purse, and said flatly, "We need to talk about reproductive planning." I thought she was joking. She wasn't. She sat across from me, calm, composed, as if she were discussing a client proposal. "I've decided to freeze my eggs," she said. "It's just smart. I don't want biology to dictate my options. I'm not sure if I'll want kids with you, or anyone, yet. But I want the option available." I put my fork down slowly. "Okay," I said. "That's actually pretty reasonable." She looked surprised, like she expected resistance. "Really?" "Yeah," I said. "It's your body, your timeline. Makes sense to plan ahead." Her face softened for a moment. Then she added, almost casually, "It's just that I'm still evaluating if you're father material." That one landed. Not because of the words themselves. I get that people question compatibility, but because of the way she said it. Like she was assessing a stock's volatility, not a person she'd lived with for years. I kept my voice steady. "Evaluating." She shrugged. "You're stable, but you don't inspire. I don't know if I want my future child to inherit your passivity." I took a long breath. "You mean I don't argue enough?" "I mean," she said carefully, "you don't lead. You maintain." There it was. The corporate insult disguised as insight. I nodded slowly, stood up, and started clearing the table. "That's smart planning," I said. "Truly. You're doing what's right for you." She blinked, maybe thrown off by the calmness. "You're not upset?" I smiled, a small, non-committal one. "No, just thinking about long-term strategies myself." The next morning, I made a call. Not to argue, not to retaliate, but to align my own risk mitigation plan. I booked a consultation with a urologist for a vasectomy. It wasn't spite. It was clarity. If she was preserving her future options, I was narrowing mine, deliberately, peacefully. 3 weeks passed. Things between us were oddly polite. She was buried in work, traveling between conferences and meetings. When she was home, she'd talk about investments, fertility science, or women's empowerment panels she'd joined. To be fair, I respected what she was doing. She was driven, pragmatic, ambitious. But somewhere along the way, she stopped being with me. She was living beside me, narrating her life like a LinkedIn post. Then came the call. It was a Friday afternoon. I was working from home, headphones on, when my phone started buzzing. It was my urologist's office, confirming my pre-surgery questionnaire. I answered quickly, told them to call back in an hour, but apparently, they also called my secondary contact because I'd filled the form out wrong. I hadn't realized Claire was listed as my emergency contact on all my medical forms. So, while she was at her fertility clinic consultation that same afternoon, she got a voicemail from the vasectomy clinic, my vasectomy clinic, confirming my appointment date and asking her to remind me to bring my insurance information. When I came home that night, the atmosphere was glacial. She was sitting at the kitchen island with her laptop closed, a glass of wine untouched. Her phone was next to it, screen lit with the missed call log from the urologist. "Want to tell me something?" she asked, voice flat. I set my bag down. "You first." She pressed play. The voicemail filled the silence. "Hi. This is Dr. Klein's office calling to confirm my name. Vasectomy consultation for next Tuesday at 3 p.m. Please remind him to bring his ID and insurance card. The recording ended. The air was heavy enough to choke on. She stared at me, not angry, just offended. A vasectomy? Seriously? I said yes. Smart planning. Her eyes narrowed. You're mocking me. No, I said calmly. I'm mirroring you. You're preserving your reproductive freedom. I'm preserving mine. Her composure cracked. That's not the same thing. It's exactly the same thing, I replied. We're both making decisions that align with our uncertain feelings about the future. You said you weren't sure if I was father material. So I'm making sure no one finds out by accident. Her mouth opened, then closed again. She had no immediate counterargument. Logic was her favorite weapon, but that night, she'd met someone who could use it fluently. Finally, she said quietly, "You're punishing me." I shook my head. No, I'm responding proportionally. She went silent for a long time, staring into the wine glass like it might offer a strategy memo. Finally, she whispered, "You don't mean it. You wouldn't actually do it." I shrugged. You didn't think I'd support you freezing your eggs either. That night, she slept in the guest room. For the next few days, things were tense, but eerily civil. She didn't mention the procedure again. I assumed maybe she'd made peace with it. Or, more likely, buried it under denial. Then, the night before my consultation, I noticed her phone lighting up repeatedly with notifications from a group chat named Future Moms. One preview read, "Girl, if he really does it, you'll never forgive yourself." I didn't confront her. I didn't even mention it. The next day, I went to the appointment. I didn't cancel, didn't make a scene, just asked every question calmly, took the brochure, scheduled the procedure for the following month. When I got home, she wasn't there. Instead, she'd left a note on the counter. "If you go through with this, we're done." I read it twice, then folded it neatly and placed it under a magnet on the fridge. Then I sat on the couch and thought about everything we'd built: the neat life, the efficient communication, the way we both used logic to avoid vulnerability. For the first time, I realized she wasn't wrong about me being calm to a fault, but she was wrong about what that calmness meant. It wasn't weakness. It was control, and I was finally using it. The note stayed on my fridge for 3 days. She didn't call, didn't text. The silence was deafening, but also clarifying. Every time I walked past that piece of paper, I saw not a threat, but a contract. If you live your life on your own terms, I'm gone. By the 4th day, she came back. Not to talk, to perform damage control. She walked in with that same polished corporate calm she used in meetings. Hair pinned perfectly, voice level, every emotion filtered. She didn't even look angry, just strategic. "I've had time to think," she said, placing her keys neatly on the counter. "You're being reactive. I understand you felt insulted, but a vasectomy is permanent. I don't want you to make an irreversible mistake because you're trying to prove a point." I kept my tone even. "I'm not proving a point. I'm making a decision about my own body. You of all people should understand that." She hesitated. I could see the flicker of frustration behind her composed mask. "This isn't the same, and you know it." "It's the same logic," I said. "You told me you weren't sure if I was fit to be a father." I took that seriously. "I'm taking you seriously." That broke through her corporate diplomacy. "You're twisting this," she snapped. I said I needed time to decide. "That doesn't mean I've decided against you." "Then why?" I asked quietly. "Did it sound like you were already planning a future without me in it?" She exhaled sharply. "You're so dramatic." I almost laughed. The irony of her accusing me of drama wasn't lost on me. She stayed for 2 nights. The tension was unbearable. Every meal quiet, every look measured. We didn't argue, but the distance between us was louder than shouting. On the 3rd morning, I was in a video meeting when she started pacing behind me, phone in hand. I muted myself. She hissed, "Your urologist just called again. They confirmed your procedure date. Do you even realize how insane that looks?" My coworkers heard the voicemail when my phone rang on speaker. I turned my chair slowly. "You still have my doctor's office saved as a contact?" Her face froze. "Claire," I said carefully, "why did you even answer that call?" She blinked. "Because I thought it might be my clinic. You know, the fertility center." I nodded slowly. "So, by coincidence, you just happened to pick up my doctor's confirmation call." Again, she flushed. "You're being paranoid." "I'm being observant," I said. "That's what you always wanted, right? Someone strategic." That night, She packed another overnight bag. I didn't stop her. The next day, I got an email, not from her, but from her lawyer friend, CC&G both of us, about shared lease obligations and amicable transition planning. Translation: she was officially preparing her exit. I replied with 2 sentences. Understood. Please remove my name from any emergency contact information or shared health records you may still have access to. That must have stung, because she texted me an hour later. You don't have to be cruel. I stared at the screen before typing. I'm not. I'm being efficient. That was our last exchange for weeks. I went through with the vasectomy consultation. The doctor was an older man with kind eyes and a blunt sense of humor. He asked, "So, family planning or family unplanning?" I smiled. "More like risk management." He laughed and said, "That's one way to put it." As he explained the process, I realized how surreal it all was. Two adults who once talked about baby names now communicating through lawyers and voicemail transcripts. I didn't back out. I scheduled the procedure. Quietly. No announcement, no social media, no conversations. 3 days before it, she came back one last time. She didn't knock. Just walked in with her key and said, "We need to talk." I let her. "I've been thinking," she started, "and maybe I was harsh. I don't know what came over me that night. I think I was just scared. About time, aging, choices. You don't have to do this just because I hurt your pride." I met her eyes. "You think this is about pride?" She hesitated. "Isn't it?" "No," I said quietly. "It's about peace." She looked at me. Really looked, maybe for the first time in months. And I think she finally realized I wasn't bluffing. She stepped closer. "If you go through with this, you're closing every door. What if you meet someone else who wants kids? Then she'll want me for who I am," I said. Not who I could be if I changed enough to fit her plan. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You're going to regret this." I thought about it, then said, "Maybe, but at least it'll be my regret." She left without another word. 2 weeks later, I got the procedure. Simple, painless, and strangely anticlimactic. I went home, put on a movie, and realized something unexpected. I wasn't angry anymore. Just free. The following Monday, I got one last email from her. "I hope you find what you're looking for." "I really do." I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Update 1. It's been 8 months since the vasectomy. Enough time for the storm to settle, though some days it still echoes like thunder in the distance. The funny thing is, once the drama ended, the silence didn't feel empty, it felt earned. For the first few weeks, I didn't tell anyone except my brother. He laughed, called it the coldest power move he'd ever seen, then got serious and said, "But you know this'll follow you, right? Word will get around." I told him I wasn't hiding. I just wasn't advertising either. But of course, secrets travel faster when people want a villain. About a month after she moved out, mutual friends started reaching out. The tone was always the same. Cautious, curious, half gossip, half sympathy. "Hey, man, just wanted to check in. Claire said things got complicated between you two. She told us you got a vasectomy just to spite her. Is that true?" I didn't defend myself. I didn't deny it. I just said, I made a medical decision that was right for me. That kind of answer makes people uncomfortable. They want a fight, or a confession, or at least some self-deprecation to ease the tension. But I wasn't playing the role they wrote for me anymore. 3 months later, I ran into Claire. It was at a mutual friend's housewarming party, the kind of event where everyone brings overpriced wine and pretends to have their lives together. I didn't even know she'd be there. She looked good, too good, in that deliberate, "you're supposed to notice I'm thriving" kind of way. She saw me before I saw her. There was this split second where both of us froze. Then she smiled like we were colleagues, not exes. We exchanged small talk, light and polished. She mentioned she'd started seeing someone more aligned with her future plans. I nodded and said, "That's good." Then she said it. "You know, I still think you did it to hurt me." I met her gaze. "Claire, not everything's about you." The words landed like a slap. Not loud, but precise. She recovered quickly, she always did, and walked off to join her new boyfriend, a guy in a pastel suit who looked like he hosted a wellness podcast. I went outside for air. That's when her cousin, the one who used to call me the stable one, came up. She said quietly, "You know, her mom still talks about you. Apparently, she told the family she pushed you away." I didn't know what to do with that. Part of me felt vindicated. Another part felt tired. Because here's the truth. Winning doesn't feel like victory when you've seen how small the game really was. 6 months in, I started therapy. Not because I was broken, because I wanted to understand why I'd stayed in a relationship that turned into a negotiation table. My therapist asked, "What did her announcement really mean to you?" I said, "It meant I was an option, not a partner." She nodded. "And now," I said, "I don't negotiate my worth." That became a kind of mantra. I stopped justifying my choices, stopped explaining why I didn't want kids, why I valued autonomy, why I didn't want to live on someone else's timeline. I dated casually, then stopped for a while. I traveled. I read. I learned how to enjoy weekends without checking who approved of my plans. And then, last month, something unexpected happened. I met someone new. Not in some cinematic way, just a slow, natural connection. She asked about my past, and I told her the truth. Not the gossiped version, the quiet, sober one. She didn't flinch, just said, "That sounds like someone who finally made his life his own." It wasn't validation. It was understanding. That's when I realized I hadn't been looking for forgiveness. I'd been looking for peace. And that, finally, I had. Final update. It's been just over a year now. Funny how 12 months can turn a life inside out. And then, slowly, right side up again. Claire got engaged 2 months ago. I know because her cousin still follows me on Instagram and occasionally forgets to mute her stories. The guy, a financial planner, mid-30s, looks like the human embodiment of a 10-year plan, seems to adore her. They post matching gym selfies, joint vision boards, captions about building the future together. I don't feel bitter anymore, just detached, like watching a movie I've already seen, where I finally understand every foreshadowed line. I heard through the grapevine that she's also doing IVF prep. There was a time that would have hit me like a punch to the chest. Now it barely registers. It's not that I stopped caring about her. It's that I stopped needing her version of the story to make sense. Because back then, when she said, "I'm freezing my eggs, I'm not sure your father material," what I really heard was, "I want to control every variable of my future, even the people in it." And for a while, I let her. I tried to be malleable, rational, unthreatening, a man shaped to fit her comfort zone. But people aren't long-term investments. You can't plan them into safety. After my vasectomy, she lost interest not because of the procedure, but because it took away her leverage. She couldn't hold the hypothetical someday over me anymore. That was the day the illusion of control ended for both of us. I learned that love without mutual respect just becomes quiet warfare. Each person trying to win ground instead of share it. And when one side calls a truce, the other calls it weakness. It's strange. I thought I'd feel a sense of loss after everything. Instead, I feel weightless. I get up, make my coffee, and don't brace for the next negotiation. I can take a trip on a whim. I can say no without an argument, or yes, without overthinking what it means. And sometimes, late at night, when the apartment is quiet and the world outside hums with someone else's drama, I think back to the moment she stood in our kitchen, arms folded, voice sharp. "You're going to regret this." Maybe she was right, in her own way. Regret isn't always about wanting to undo something. Sometimes it's just a scar where a lesson healed. I don't regret the vasectomy. I don't regret the silence that followed. I don't even regret loving her. But I do regret how long I mistook conditional affection for partnership. A few weeks ago, I got an email from the same clinic where I had my procedure. Routine checkup reminder. I almost deleted it, then smiled and hit confirm appointment. Because for the first time in a long time, a decision about my body, my life, my direction belongs entirely to me. And that's what peace looks like. Not triumph, not revenge, just ownership. I don't think Claire ever wanted to hurt me. She just couldn't stand not being in control. And I don't think I wanted to punish her. I just finally stopped surrendering. If you asked me today whether I'd change anything, I'd probably say no. Not because it was painless, it wasn't, but because clarity rarely is. You don't wake up one morning and find peace waiting at your doorstep. You earn it, piece by piece, in the quiet aftermath of choosing yourself. And for the first time, I don't need anyone's permission to keep it.